Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. And no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. And coming up, we're going to take a look at every player on this Eagles roster. An in-depth look at the Eagles depth chart. And of course, we'll highlight some of the surprises on that depth chart. First, a programming reminder. Be sure to join us on Friday night. What's happening Friday night? The Eagles season gets underway. It is the first time that there will be an NFL game on opening weekend on Friday night in 50 years. The Eagles taking on the Green Bay Packers in Brazil. We'll be live with an hour-and-a-half pregame show, and everything gets started at 6:45 p.m. Eastern, 3:45 p.m. Pacific. In addition to that, if you want daily shows on the Birds, hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell icon, turn on your notifications there for anytime we go live, anytime we push out a show, you will be notified. And if you're not familiar with our watch parties, it is the best place to experience an Eagles game day outside of being at the actual Eagles game. All right, Eagles depth chart breakdown here. We start at the quarterback position. No surprises here. Jalen Hurts, the franchise QB. Kenny Pickett did slightly edge Tanner McKee to become Jalen Hurts' backup as QB2. Tanner McKee played really well in the preseason, just not good enough during some of those practice sessions. So Kenny Pickett will be the backup behind Jalen Hurts going into week one against the Green Bay Packers. And I think Philadelphia is very content with this quarterback room. You have your franchise guy in Jalen Hurts, who's looking to rebound after the rough ending to last year. I think he's going to be able to do that simply with the better offensive scheme, play calling, and play designs. I think he looks more so like the player who finished runner-up in MVP voting during the 2022 campaign en route to Philadelphia, making it to the Super Bowl. And then you also have Kenny Pickett, who started a lot of games in this league. And then you have the young upside player who I think has a lot of potential in this league in Tanner McKee, who does have some Nick Foles vibes with how tall he is and his knack for making big plays, big throws, and clutch plays in big-time situations. Flip the page to the Eagles running back spot. Saquon Barkley, the most talented running back that Philadelphia has had since LaShawn McCoy. And I know I said that last year about DeAndre Swift, but that was true. But Saquon Barkley is much better than a player like DeAndre Swift, a more well-rounded playmaker, a more accomplished playmaker. I'm so excited to see what Saquon's going to be able to do in an Eagles uniform. Kenneth Gainwell is a very reliable backup running back. He can catch it. He can run it. He can pass protect. And then the sneaky addition this offseason in the NFL draft back in April, Will Shipley, a poor man's Christian McCaffrey with the versatility that he brings. I think Saquon Barkley this year can be the Eagles version of what Christian McCaffrey brought to the Niners last year, just as a pass catcher, as a runner, and I think that Saquon can pop off for 1,500 to 2,000 all-purpose yards. Eagles arguably have the best and deepest wide receiver trio in the National Football League. A.J. Brown coming off back-to-back years of nearly 1,500 yards. He's virtually unstoppable. The physical makeup, the diversity to his game, how he has everything to his route tree, how he can pick up yards after the catch. He truly is a unique playmaker. And then DeVonta Smith, slippery, plays bigger than his size, a big-time home run threat. And I'm excited to see what Jahan Dotson can do. This is a player who has 11 touchdowns in his first 2 years in the NFL after being a first-round pick by the Washington Commanders, and that comes with bad quarterback play. Now, outside of that top three, you have Britton Covey and you have Johnny Wilson. So as far as depth goes, the Eagles are a little bit light at that receiver spot. Anaya Smith obviously put on IR due to injury. You have Paris Campbell on the practice squad, so if an injury were to happen, he would be the first receiver to get called up to the active game day roster. The Eagles only went with 2 tight ends on the initial 53. That includes Dallas Goedert and Grant Calcaterra. They did bring back Jack Stoll, who this offseason did sign with the New York Giants, but he didn't make their initial 53. So Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni really like him. They bring him back. It's noted there that he is on the practice squad, and maybe he is an active game day roster elevation from the taxi squad to the active roster, although I don't think Philadelphia is going to need to do that. I'm confident that Dallas Goedert and Grant Calcaterra can carry the load, and you can get by with 2 tight ends on game days. Eagles offensive line. It is a new era. No Jason Kelce for the first time since the early 2010s. It's wild to think about that. Cam Jurgens takes over for the best center in the history of this organization and arguably the best center of all time. There's some question marks there, but I like his game, and I think that Cam Jurgens is going to be a good and successful center in this league. You have Jordan Mailata, one of the best left tackles in the game, anchoring down Jalen Hurts' blind side. Landon Dickerson and him got paid this offseason. Mekhi Becton, a surprise throughout training camp and in the preseason, unseating Tyler Steen to be this team's starting right guard. He is playing there for the first time in his NFL career. There's so much ability with Mekhi Becton. Him staying in shape has been a little bit of a concern. Injuries have been a concern. He has played high-level tackle in this league, so I actually think with his size, it might benefit him to move to the inside, and I trust Jeff Stoutland's evaluation. If he thinks Becton can play right guard, then he can play right guard. And then Lane Johnson, getting a little bit long in the tooth, but still probably the best right tackle in the game. This Eagles offensive line, even without Jason Kelce, still has an opportunity to be a top 5, top 10 unit, both in pass protection and opening up holes in the run game. Looking ahead to week 1, who you got? Eagles, Packers in Brazil, 2 of the top teams in my estimation in the NFC going into 2024, type PHI or type GB. Today's Eagles Now is sponsored by our friends at Game Time. If you're looking for tickets to go to an Eagles game, sporting event, concert, comedy show, theater event, Game Time is where it's at. They have the best seats at the lowest price guarantee. Prices drop as the event gets closer, and you're guaranteed to get the lowest price on the Game Time app when you compare them to other apps in the ticketing marketplace. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. Game Time picks are awesome. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, all-in pricing. I suggest you toggle this feature, showing you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout because ticketing apps do that far too often. And there are still plenty of tickets available for Philadelphia Eagles games this year. So download the app, create an account, use that code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS. We'll put all of this information down below in the comment section and in the description of today's Eagles Now. We segue to the defensive side of the football. And this defensive line is going to fluctuate. It is going to change. There are going to be some adjustments there. So keep that in mind because Vic Fangio is going to run a 3-4, but it could also be a little bit of a hybrid 3-4. We don't really know until we see this unit on the field against Green Bay on Friday night. Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter, the top defensive linemen. And because the Eagles go with the 3-4, they have their edge rushers, which we'll get to. Moro Ojomo had a good camp in preseason, former late-round pick by the Eagles in 2023 out of Texas. I'm a believer in him as a developmental piece. Thomas Booker came out of nowhere to make this initial 53. Howie Roseman, very complimentary of him. So, too, was Vic Fangio with the leaps that he made after being on the Eagles practice squad a year ago. Howie really likes his get-off at the line of scrimmage. And then Byron Young, a former third-round pick by the Raiders last year, he got claimed through waivers by the Eagles. So he is on this active roster for Philadelphia, and he's probably going to get some snaps right from the jump. Because Vic Fangio is running that 3-4, this is going to look foreign to some people, but let me break it down. You have your edge rushers, Bryce Huff and Josh Sweat. They're going to start for the Eagles, I think. And then the backups at edge, Brandon Graham, Patrick Johnson on one side, Nolan Smith, Jalyx Hunt on the other side. Vic Fangio is going to ask his edge rushers and defensive ends to drop back in coverage from time to time. No, I don't think you're going to see Josh Sweat drop back in coverage a lot. I think more so that's going to be the job and the role of Nolan Smith, Jalyx Hunt. We saw Bryce Huff do that during the preseason. Brandon Graham, I think he's in the same category as Josh Sweat. When you need an edge to drop back in coverage, you have Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham rush the passer. I do not need to see them dropping back in coverage. I think Vic Fangio knows that. I do think that Patrick Johnson can do a little bit of everything. And then the monster surprise going into week 1. According to Jeff McClain, Nakobe Dean has beat out Devin White to be the Mike linebacker for Philadelphia. I imagine he's going to wear that green dot. For the first time in his career, Zack Baun is going to play off-ball coverage linebacker with the New Orleans Saints. He was primarily used as an edge rusher, so that's a new role for him. And because Devin White is injured and he got beat out, he didn't travel with the Eagles to Brazil, I think we could see a lot from Ben Van Sumeren, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., and maybe a little bit of Oren Burks is mixed in. Those players, good special teams contributors. How can they impact this defense right from the go? If I had my pick of the first linebacker substitution, it's the rookie in Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I think he's the best in coverage. He's used to playing that position. He has more upside than a player like Oren Burks, who's played a lot of off-ball linebacker, but is more of a special teams player. And Ben Van Sumeren, he's not going to be on this roster as an every-down linebacker, in my opinion. He's more of that special teams ace. Now we go to the secondary, specifically the Eagles' cornerback room. Darius Slay and Isaiah Rodgers expected to start on the outside, and then Quinyon Mitchell on the inside. Vic Fangio did say earlier this week that the rookie 22nd overall pick, Quinyon Mitchell, out of Toledo, is expected to play about 100% of the snaps. That's going to be inside. That's going to be outside. Fangio adding that in an ideal world, there is a specific position for Quinyon Mitchell, but he has to put his best DBs out there, and Mitchell is one of the best DBs, but so too are Darius Slay and Isaiah Rodgers. Wouldn't be surprised if Cooper Jean gets some run, maybe a couple of weeks into the year because of that injury holding him back, and then Kelee Ringo, he'll be featured in some pass-happy coverage, scheme calls, and then Eli Ricks, we know what he can do. He played some good football, I thought, all things considered, in an awful defensive system last year as a UDFA. Eagles safeties, Reed Blankenship, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. The Eagles did release Caden Stearns from the practice squad. They continue to be a little bit light at that safety spot. No James Bradbury because of that injury that we talked about on the show last week. So Tristan McCollum and Avonte Maddox, the backup safeties going into this game against Green Bay. No surprises here with the Eagles specialists. Jake Elliott, arguably the best kicker in the game. Braden Mann was an upgrade over Aaron Sipos last year. And then Rick Lovato, a long-tenured and very successful long snapper in this league with the Eagles. So with that, we round out this segment with this question here. What was the biggest camp and preseason surprise? To me, it's Devin White getting beat out. You let me know down in the comments section. Mekhi Becton over Tyler Steen up there as well.